Honorable Ferdinand Martin Romualdez, Speaker of the House of Representatives, 19th Congress of the Philippines, National Security Advisor, Secretary Eduardo Año, Executive Secretary Lucas Bersamin, Your Excellencies, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. I understand many of you are probably still thinking about the US elections, and it's understandable, but advancing a rules-based maritime order is our focus in the next 2 days. And the reason is simple. Almost every day in the South China Sea, we are witnessing an alarming erosion of the rule of law. It's too complex a problem that there seems to be no solution in sight. Doing something could be seen as escalatory. Doing nothing could invite more aggression. President Ferdinand Marcos of the Philippines, in his keynote address at the Shangri-La Dialogue earlier this year, referenced two institutions that came about in 1982 in his attempt to explain the importance of resolving disputes anchored on the rule of law. First, in that year, the international community completed negotiation for the UN Convention on the Law of the Sea, a landmark treaty that was envisioned to govern the world's oceans and seas and promote their equitable use. All claimant states to the South China Sea dispute are parties to the 1982 UNCLOS, including China. It is important to note that the Law of the Sea Convention was one of the first, if not the first, international legal instrument that the People's Republic of China negotiated at the UN. China and other littoral states of the South China Sea, the Philippines, Malaysia, Vietnam, and Indonesia have all contributed to the treaty's development. There is absolutely no reason why we cannot use its provisions and procedures to deal with our disputes today. Second, also in 1982, UN member states unanimously adopted the General Assembly Resolution 3710 on peaceful settlement of disputes. The unanimous resolution committed states to solving disputes peacefully through legal and diplomatic processes and not through the threat or the use of force. Both are institutions that have helped advance the international community's shared aspiration for a more stable, more peaceful, and rules-based international order. Today, these institutions are under significant stress, especially in the South China Sea. Commodore J. Tariela and I were at the Shangri-La Dialogue earlier this year, last year, when we conceptualized this project. We thought we needed something focused on the South China Sea and clarify exactly the sources of insecurities in our part of the world. But it can't just be another talk shop. It can't just be another gathering of experts and officials, nor a listening conference in a classroom setup under Chatham House rule. We needed something more impactful. In the age of fake news and disinformation, we needed the experts to be shaping political and policy discourse, not the propagandists and malign influence operators. We needed a unique proposition. After all, there are already so many South China Sea conferences out there. Some of you, or many of you, are veterans of those conferences. So what is our value add? We thought we needed a more focused discussion on the rule of law in the South China Sea, especially since many experts, policy analysts, and pundits focus their attention on the so-called great power competition, which unfortunately make it appear that all these maritime tensions are just byproduct of that competition and not a result of a state actor's blatant violations of international law. We need a platform for regular exchanges between and among experts and officials that will clarify exactly what we mean by rules-based order and perhaps develop regional consensus around that, regardless of the competition between and among the great powers. So our task over the next 2 days is to have an honest conversation about this so-called rules-based international order in relation to the South China Sea. We have distributed the agenda, I believe, or if not yet, we will distribute soon for your reference, and so everyone can prepare their own contribution to the discussions that begin tomorrow morning. Our only request is for all participants, as I have told the speakers, to refrain from using academic jargons and terminologies and abstract terms and phrases. Let's keep the conversations real, specific, and actionable, because policymakers, practitioners, and the general public will be tuning in. So that's it for agenda setting, but before I hand over to our distinguished speakers tonight, let me just take this opportunity to thank again the National Security Advisor, Secretary Anyo, Executive Secretary Lucas Bersamin, PCG Commandant Admiral Ronnie Gavan, Commodore J. Tariela, Commodore Nelson Timbang, and other PCG officers, and all our partners in the Philippine government for making this dialogue happen. Also to the Daniela Brown of CAS Philippines, my bosses at Pacific Forum, Carl Baker and Brad Gosselman. My students who are somewhere at the back working so hard to deliver the best dialogue possible. So I look forward to productive 2 days ahead. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, sir. Once again, we've heard from Dr. Depri or Danielle. At this point, for our opening remarks, may we respectfully request the National Security Advisor of the Philippines, Secretary Eduardo M. Año. Let's give him a big, big round of applause as well.
Executive Secretary Lucas Bersamin, sir. Speaker Ferdinand Martin Romualdez, members of the Diplomatic Corps present, Her Excellency Mary Kay Carlson, Ambassador of the U.S. to the Philippines, His Excellency Endo Kazuya, Ambassador of Japan to the Philippines, His Excellency Harsh Kumar Jain, Ambassador of India to the Philippines, His Excellency Andreas Michael Papernoski, Ambassador of Germany to the Philippines, His Excellency Lai Tai Bin, Ambassador of Vietnam to the Philippines, Her Excellency Constance Si, Ambassador of Singapore to the Philippines, Her Excellency Hai Kyong Yu, Ambassador of Australia to the Philippines, Her Excellency Catherine McIntosh, Ambassador of New Zealand to the Philippines, Undersecretary Nestor Jericho from NSC, USEC Alex Lopez from the National Maritime Council, Admiral Ronnie Gavan from the Philippine Coast Guard, Assistant Secretary Jonathan Malaya from NSC, Ms. Daniela Brown, Country Director of CAS Philippines, of course, Dr. Jeffrey Ordanya, the lead convener of the Manila Dialogue on the South China Sea. Other officials and representatives from the national government agencies, speaker and participants of the Manila Dialogue on the South China Sea, friends from the media, honored guests, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. At the Shangri-La Dialogue in Singapore earlier this year, President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. emphasized the importance of resolving maritime differences in the South China Sea based on international law while respecting the legitimate interests and legally settled rights of all parties. I believe many of you present here tonight who listened to that speech would agree that the President's call resonated with political leaders, policymakers, and thought leaders from across Southeast Asia and beyond. In response to that principled call to promote a rule-based order, it is my honor to welcome you to the inaugural Manila Dialogue on the South China Sea. This gathering provides another open and constructive platform to tackle critical issues confronting our maritime environment and to advance our collective pursuit of a stable, just, and rule-based maritime order, not only within the Philippines and the region, but also through the world over. Indeed, addressing and managing the challenges in the South China Sea does not only concern and benefit the Philippines, but also the other coastal states surrounding this strategic waterway, most especially our ASEAN neighbors. More importantly, it fully affects the world order that we have always been trying to build and fortify, anchored on our enduring commitment to the fundamental tenet of sovereignty, sovereign equality of states, and amity with all nations. In such respect, the staging of this dialogue is not merely for a single state, but for all nations, who all share the progressive and principled vision for a world that is more just, peaceful, and prosperous. Our united call reverberates across the world. For the Philippines, our lawful interests and rights in the South China Sea represent not only an area of vast natural wealth, but a core component of our national identity and sovereignty. The same is true with other claimant states and to all other nations in the world whose territories are threatened and whose interests are subordinated. I say then that preserving territorial integrity is foundational for us, as it is for the rest of the other states. Therefore, our commitment to upholding these rights and ensuring that our sovereignty must remain intact and inviolable. This creates a clear and resonating message to other countries to take actions not only for their own interest, but also for the greater peace, stability, and prosperity around the globe. This is because we all envision a thriving ASEAN and a secure and stable Indo-Pacific region that really enables coastal states to explore and exploit and conserve and manage their maritime wealth, thereby promoting sustainable use of resources. As we all know, these waters hold immense value for our nation's human and food security, economic resilience, and environmental health. It should therefore be our collective duty to responsibly steward these resources, ensuring that they serve the needs of today's generation while preserving them for those of the future. In the same vein, we must lock our arms in rejecting any actions that threaten the sustainable management of these resources or that jeopardize the livelihoods of our coastal communities. Maintaining regional stability remains a critical objective. The SCS is a vital international waterway, essential for commerce, security, and cooperation. As the Philippines defends its own rights and stands firmly with other nations to protect whatever endangers and compromises ours, we also recognize our responsibility to foster an environment of peace and stability that benefits the broader region. This requires a sustained commitment to a rule-based order, one where international law, not power dynamics, dictates the rights and responsibilities of the states. We face a choice: either uphold a world governed by rule of law or risk a return to a world governed by power alone. But for us peace-loving nations, the South China Sea should not be an arena of conflict, but it must be a sea that springs cooperation and prosperity without sacrificing our sovereignty, sovereign rights, territorial integrity, and jurisdiction. This is why we are here. The Manila Dialogue is our response to a reality we cannot ignore. The challenges in the SCS are unlikely to diminish soon, and the security situation continues to evolve as regional powers and players shape the security environment, affecting not just the Philippines, but also other states. In this context, it is even more urgent for like-minded nations, decision and opinion makers, and experts to convene to reaffirm our commitments and to forge a common understanding that guides us forward. As respected figures in the fields of maritime security, international law, and foreign policy, From a range of nations and institutions gathered today, let us optimize this dialogue to be a platform for engaging in frank discussion, generating actionable solutions, and promoting the principles enshrined in the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea. In the face of the evolving challenges, we must ensure that our approach remains consistent and synergized. This dialogue, therefore, is not just a forum for discussion, it is a vital arena for reinforcing our collective stance, recommitting to a common understanding, and reaffirming the principles enshrined in the UNCLOS for all states. It is a shared space where diverse gathering underscores our collective commitment to positive engagement under a rule-based international order, presenting us a tremendous opportunity to exchange insights and lay out pathways that benefit all. In convening the Manila Dialogue, we seek to bolster regional and global cooperation, recognizing that security, prosperity, and environmental sustainability in the SCS hinge on a unified approach. This dialogue is an opportunity to explore sound and pragmatic solutions that reaffirm and align our shared commitment to regional and global cooperation towards preserving and safeguarding the region's resources and upholding a stable and just maritime order. With all our active participation, we hope to effectively navigate the complexities of our maritime challenges and transform the SCS into a model of collaboration that benefits not only our region, but the whole world. And with our aim for continuity of this gathering through its annual conduct, we hope to invite and entice more participants from other states to get involved and openly discuss pressing concerns and build up on our engagements and cooperations. In closing, my deepest gratitude and congratulations go to our partners. I'll mention the Philippine Coast Guard, particularly the West Philippine Sea Transparency Office, the Presidential Communications Office, the Philippine Information Agency, for their efforts in making this event a reality. I also profoundly thank and commend Dr. Jeffrey Ordaniel of the We Protect Our Seas Advocacy Group, our lead convener, for bringing together this esteemed assembly of experts and officials. We are equally grateful to our international partners and sponsors, Pacific Forum International through its Executive Director, Mr. Carl Baker, and CAS Philippines through its Country Director, Ms. Daniela Braun, among many others whose support underscores the global stakes involved in maintaining stability and peace in the region. Over the next 2 days, I look forward to the insights, recommendations, and collaborations that will emerge from our conversations. Together, let us work forward and look toward a future where our territorial integrity is protected, our resources are sustainably managed, and our region's stability is steadfastly upheld. Thank you very much, and a warm welcome to all of you to the Manila Dialogue on the South China Sea.
There you have it. We just heard from the National Security Advisor of the Philippines, Secretary Eduardo M. Añez. Sir, thank you very much for that opening remark. At this point, for the introduction of our keynote speaker, may we respectfully request the Commandant of the Philippine Coast Guard, Admiral Ronnie Hill Latorilla-Gaban, PCG, for this introduction. Let's give him a round of applause as well.
Your Excellencies, friends, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. It is my great honor to introduce House Speaker, the Honorable Ferdinand Martin G. Romualdez. With a deep commitment to public service, Speaker Romualdez began his political journey representing the 1st District of Leyte Province in the House of Representatives. His dedication and vision quickly garnered the respect and trust of his colleagues, resulting in his election as Majority Floor Leader in the 18th Congress, and now as Speaker in the 19th Congress. In his role as Speaker, he champions laws that foster inclusive economic growth, uphold democratic principles, and prioritize public health. Notable legislation under his leadership include the Maharlika Investment Act of 2023, the new Agrarian Emancipation Act, the Public-Private Partnership Code of the Philippines, the Internet Transactions Act of 2023, and the Ease of Paying Taxes Act, among many others. Speaker Romualdez's leadership exemplifies a steadfast commitment to serving our nation and its people with integrity, compassion, and vision. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming House Speaker, the Honorable Ferdinand Martin G. Romualdez.
Thank you for the kind introduction. I'd like to, of course, acknowledge our esteemed members from the Diplomatic Corps. A special mention to Ambassador Mary Kay Carlson, and congratulations on the election of President Donald J. Trump for the United States. To our Executive Secretary, Lucas Bersamin, our National Security Advisor, Eduardo Año, our Philippine Coast Guard Commandant, Admiral Ronnie Hill Gavan, our Philippine Coast Guard spokesperson for the West Philippine Sea, Commodore J. Tariela, the Manila Dialogue on South China Sea lead convener, Dr. Jeffrey Daniel, the Konrad Adenauer Stiftung Philippines Country Director, Daniela Braun, our friends from the West Philippine Sea Transparency Office, National Security Council, We Protect Our Seas Advocacy Group, our Philippine Coast Guard, our friends from the local and foreign media, esteemed guests, ladies and gentlemen. I am grateful to address you today, not just as the Speaker of the House of Representatives, but as a fellow Filipino who, like many of you, feels a profound duty to protect our sovereignty and our people and our future in the West Philippine Sea. Our stand on these waters is not just a matter of geography. It is a matter of national pride, economic security, and the legacy we will pass on to future generations. Since 2016, the Arbitral Award has stood as a landmark of justice and affirmation of the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Seas. This ruling affirms that our rights in these waters are recognized, legitimate, and must be respected by all. It invalidated claims that attempt to exceed the legal bounds set by UNCLOS, and it firmly established our sovereign rights and jurisdiction in our exclusive economic zone. Yet the journey from a ruling to reality is long and requires not just vigilance, but sustained action. The issues in the West Philippine Sea are complex, involving competing claims and pressures. Our approach must remain anchored on international law, but also dynamic, recognizing the power of alliances, diplomacy, and transparent communication. While we seek peace and dialogue, we must also be prepared to defend our interests, our people, and our environment. The Philippines has chosen a principled path of peaceful assertion, aiming to resolve disputes without conflict. We see this approach not as a sign of weakness, but rather as a testament to our commitment to international law, particularly the 1982 Manila Declaration on the peaceful settlement of international disputes. We continue to pursue all avenues for constructive dialogue, and we value gatherings like this Manila Dialogue, where government leaders, policymakers, academics, and security experts converge to generate innovative and sustainable solutions. As Speaker of the House, I assure you that our legislative branch stands firmly behind our efforts to fortify our nation's national security. We are bolstering our Coast Guard, investing in maritime research, and working closely with our regional allies to ensure a free, open, and stable South China Sea. However, these measures alone will not suffice. Protecting our rights requires not only a military presence, but a united nation backed by allies who value the rule of law. In recent months, the provocations in the West Philippine Sea have escalated. Just this year, our Coast Guard vessels and civilian fishermen have faced ramming incidents, water cannon attacks, and interference by foreign vessels. These events are unacceptable, and each incident is a reminder of our responsibility to defend our people, particularly those whose lives and livelihoods depend on these waters. We have lodged strong diplomatic protests and welcome the international support that has underscored these objections. We continue to protest actions that violate international norms, undermine our sovereignty, and damage our marine environment. Illegal island building activities, exploitative fishing practices, and science research conducted without our permission have harmed our ecosystems and affected the livelihoods of coastal communities. The Philippines categorically rejects any excessive claims that infringe on our rights under UNCLOS and the 2016 Arbitral Award. In response, our government has committed to an expanded transparency policy through the West Philippine Sea Transparency Office and the unified messaging by the National Maritime Council. We expose illegal activities and build global support for our positions. Transparency empowers not only our citizens, but also the international community to see and understand the reality of these challenges, countering misinformation and fostering global security. This task is far from ours alone. We welcome the support of countries that have voiced strong backing for our legal position, including Australia, Canada, France, Germany, Japan, and the United States, among many others. The recent Indo-Pacific dialogue, the Camp David joint statement, and statements from G7 summits affirm a collective stand on maintaining a rules-based order in the region. When international partners acknowledge the validity of the arbitral award, they do more than support the Philippines. They uphold the principle that benefits all nations that rely on fair, peaceful, and rule-based maritime boundaries. Our efforts to de-escalate tensions with China have included a series of understandings and dialogues aimed at conducting our routine and resupply missions at Ayungin Shoal without confrontation. Following the 9th bilateral consultation mechanism, our two countries reached a provisional understanding that allowed the resupply of the BRP Sierra Madre. However, these missions remain delicate and we continue to engage in diplomacy with the hope that all parties will respect agreed-upon principles to prevent conflict. Our commitment to ASEAN is another cornerstone of our approach. At the recent ASEAN Summit, President Ferdinand R. Marcos reiterated the importance of ASEAN solidarity in standing against aggression. We cannot turn a blind eye to behaviors that threaten the region's peace and stability. The Philippines is actively working with ASEAN members, particularly other claimant states, to ensure that the Code of Conduct on the South China Sea remains aligned with UNCLOS and the Arbitral Award. This code must support UNCLOS principles, and it must not grant any party rights inconsistent with international law. As we work toward a code of conduct, we emphasize the urgency of concluding a meaningful agreement that promotes peace, respects all states' interests, and establishes mechanisms for fair, predictable cooperation. A strong, unified ASEAN voice will be vital in maintaining stability and in asserting that cooperation, not coercion, defines our region. On the domestic front, we have ramped up efforts to foster a national consciousness of our cause. Public awareness campaigns are essential. Every Filipino has a say in the West Philippine Sea. By educating our citizens and amplifying our message globally, we empower Filipinos to serve as ambassadors of our national interests. It is through this collective consciousness that we draw strength, a shared resilience, and a commitment to defend what is rightfully ours. As we look ahead, let me be clear. Defending the West Philippine Sea is not a task we can defer to future generations. The time to act is now, and this is a task for all sectors of society. From our fisher folk to our military, from our diplomats to our legislators, each of us plays a role significant in safeguarding our future. The waters of the West Philippine Sea hold resources that feed millions. They support our economy, and they are integral to the national legacy we must preserve for all Filipinos. In closing, let us remember that our stand is about more than territory. It is about principles. It is about asserting that every nation, regardless of its size or power, deserves respect for its sovereignty. It is about proving that the rule of law is a force stronger than aggression. And it is about ensuring that our children and grandchildren inherit a Philippines that is secure, respected, and sovereign. Together, let us move forward with unity, resilience, and an unbreakable commitment to peace. This is a journey we embark on, not for ourselves alone, but for the generations of yet to come. Our cause is just, our resolve is strong, and with the support of our allies and the solidarity of our people, we will uphold the dignity and the sovereignty of the Philippines. Thank you, and may our united efforts bring peace, stability, and prosperity to our beloved nation. Mabuhay.
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. We just heard the keynote address from the Speaker, House of Representatives, the 19th Congress of the Philippines, the Honorable Ferdinand Martin G. Romualdez. Sir, thank you very much. And at this point, we will be hearing the keynote remarks representing the President of the Philippines, His Excellency Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. May we also respectfully request the Executive Secretary, Office of the President of the Philippines, Executive Secretary Lucas Bersamin. Let's give him a round of applause.
Speaker Ferdinand Martin Romualdez, National Security Advisor, Secretary Eduardo Año, Your Excellencies, members of the Diplomatic Corps, foreign guests who are taking part in this dialogue, stakeholders of the West Philippine Sea, South China Sea, ladies and gentlemen, a pleasant day to all. It is an honor to welcome you on behalf of President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. to the 2024 Manila Dialogue on the South China Sea. He has prepared this message that calls for collaboration grounded in respect for international law and shared prosperity as we navigate the opportunities and challenges that the South China Sea presents to all our nations. In this spirit, I am privileged to deliver his message. Let me begin. Here at the Manila Dialogue on the South China Sea, we gather as builders of a shared future, one that demands that we choose cooperation over conflict. The sea has long been seen as both a giver and a taker. It can nourish or challenge us and reveal the perilous tightrope we walk in our maritime endeavors. With the Track 1.5 dialogues with academics and stakeholders, we ventilate ideas and perspectives while the government seeks peaceful and constructive ways forward in line with the 1982 Manila Declaration on the Peaceful Settlement of International Disputes. Even as we explore all avenues toward promoting and preserving the national interest, we emphasize that the Philippine entitlements under UNCLOS were affirmed by the 2016 Arbitral Award, and our policies will remain anchored on these instruments. This year, we witnessed several encounters in the West Philippine Sea that resulted in injuries to Philippine personnel, as well as loss and damage to Philippine equipment worth millions. In this light, we have maintained our strategic presence in the West Philippine Sea. Along with this, we will continue to publicly stand on the foundation of international law, UNCLOS, and the 2016 Arbitral Award. The Philippines also rejects and denounces excessive claims and aggressive actions as they undermine the rule of law and the very principles that ensure peace and stability in our region. Keeping with the hope of open dialogue, we will continually pursue broad public diplomacy and awareness efforts. We seek to empower our citizens to become ambassadors for our cause and foster a profound national consciousness of our interest in the West Philippine Sea. As we inform our citizens and the global community, we foster a deep appreciation for the rule of law and garner broader support for our position. To this end, the Philippine government, through the National Maritime Council, has adopted unified messaging on matters relating to the West Philippine Sea, as well as coordinating communications on developments, issues, and concerns in the said area. The Philippines is sincere, frank, and candid in these exchanges, while also firm and unequivocal about the national position and the need to uphold international law. At the recently concluded ASEAN Summit in Vientiane, Laos, We have urged the ASEAN to unite the region as a bulwark against external threats and conflicts, and ensure that its member states can lead its existence free from interference, subversion, and coercion. To address this, we have offered help and cooperation in the South China Sea, such as joint exercises and continued discussions on how to keep peace in the region. As regards the Code of Conduct on the South China Sea, we recognize that there should be more urgency in the pace of negotiations and that it is time to tackle the Code's milestone issues directly so we can make substantive progress moving forward. To this end, the Philippines will continue to work with ASEAN member states and China towards the early conclusion of an effective and substantive Code of Conduct in the South China Sea. I hope that the discussions on this occasion will yield peace and cooperation as we strengthen our conversations and strive to resolve these matters. In this critical moment, we can craft a legacy rooted in collaboration and respect, one that future generations will look back on as a defining turning point in our shared journey toward lasting harmony and prosperity. Maraming salamat at mabuhay tayong lahat. Mabuhay ang bagong Pilipinas.
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. We just heard from the Executive Secretary of the Office of the President of the Philippines, Executive Secretary Lucas P. Bersamin. Sir, thank you very much for that. And at this point, what more can we say? We would like to request everyone to give ourselves a big round of applause for being here tonight. Once again, welcome to the Manila Dialogue on the South China Sea. And what more can I say? Ladies and gentlemen, dinner is served. Let's give ourselves a big round of applause. Our VIP tables will be served. Our other guests will be guided to our buffet. And of course, our media will also be invited to the buffet.